Hello and welcome to Retro Pop with Jamie and Trevor. Today, Trevor holds a special meaning to retro gamers our age and maybe some a little bit younger as well. What do the numbers 9999 mean to you?
Well, I remember I was working at Babbage's along with you. And, for people who don't know, who are maybe a certain age, that was a precursor to what became GameStop. And I remember I was working that day and I had to work and close, so I couldn't go home and play the Dreamcast early.
Right.
And
right.
basically was the day the Dreamcast came out. And, thinking back to the games and the system and everybody in there was a ton of excitement for it. So it was one of those things I look back on with fond memory, because that was one of my favorite systems.
We can't, before we go to the Dreamcast, we gotta pay homage to Babbage's, man.
Yeah.
I have some stories of them I can share, but I'm not going to share them. But those are fond memories, man. And I don't know how they stayed in business that long, to be honest with you, because their return policy was insanely ridiculous. And they gave you 30 days.
Yep.
To try and game out and then return it. And then one shrink wrap machines got so cheap, people were like, they're planning to back up and bring it back for a full refund.
Now, people could open games, if you remember, and they could just return them.
It's true. At
any point.
Now, in that same mall, we had EB Games as well. And their return policy was a little bit more strict, I guess. They weren't duped as much.
Wow.
It was still, when you think about it, the model was just unsustainable.
Well, absolutely, which is why neither of them are still around.
Right.
GameStop right now is on the verge of bankruptcy.
Yeah, wasn't EB Games bought out by the GameStop at some point?
GameStop eventually bought them out.
Yeah. That was crazy. So, hey, I'm sorry for the laughs, guys, but this is just a really good time in my life that I'm just reliving through my head. I had some good times during that period.
Well, if you think about it, the system launches we saw the Nintendo 64.
Not only the system,
I don't know if we saw Saturn.
We saw the 3DO launch as well. And don't
3DO.
forget, Final Fantasy, was it 7?
Final Fantasy 7.
The mega launch. Oh, man, that day was just ridiculous. We probably had over 150 prepays that we had to sort out throughout the day.
All the WWF games that were crazy launches.
It was crazy. Now, this video, though, is about the Dreamcast. So it's their anniversary, 20 years of Dreamcast gaming. Now, you and I both agree that the system was ahead of its time, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. In fact, the Dreamcast brought us direct ports of a lot of arcade games. And when I say direct ports, sure, there were some graphical tricks they did to pull it off, but AM2 alone was responsible for the lion's share of those successful launches. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know Sega, stuff like, Crazy Taxi wasn't a launch title, but it was one of those games that you're like, wow, this is like bringing arcade home. And I was stunned at how good it looked.
I think before that, the Neo Geo was the standard for arcade to home ports, because they had that huge cartridge setup and then later the Neo Geo CD, but nothing compared to the Dreamcast lineup. These graphics were way above the Neo Geo set at a fraction of the cost. The Neo Geo was awesome, but did you ever price it when you were a kid? That thing was like over $1,000.
I remember I knew one person in school that had a Neo Geo, and I think the system at the time, going back, this would have been late 80s into early 90s, or whenever that thing came out. I was sometime back in my time at junior high, though. Right. It was like $600-700 for the system.
Not only that, but the games weren't that much less than the system was.
Yeah, the games were well over 100 and some bucks.
Yeah, for a cartridge. Now, mind you, the cartridge technology itself was just crazy expensive, to deal with. But nobody could afford that. Dreaming, But the Dreamcast, you know what the launch price was? You remember what it was?
$199. Was it $199?
$199. Was it?
I thought it was. That's what I paid for. And then the games were maybe $50. They were. As really, when you look at it today, games have not gone up a lot in terms of what they are today. But looking at what I had to get when I got that system, I remember I probably had one or two VMUs, except the memory cards.
Yeah.
I probably had one off-brand one because they were a little bit cheaper. I know the light gun didn't launch with it right away because House of the Dead 2 was an after. It was not a launch title, if I remember correctly. But I'm pretty sure for my launch titles, I had Hydro Thunder, Ready to Rumble, which I was super excited for.
Right.
NFL 2K, Blue Stinger.
So
those were just a few.
When you got your Dreamcast out of the box and set up, did you mess around with the VMU at all?
No, and I know looking at one I've even got sitting right here by me, I know it's got the buttons on it and it does something specific with certain games. Like I know Dino Crisis, it had like the health bar on there.
The VMU itself was also like a mini Tamagotchi where you would raise KOs.
Mm-hmm.
You would raise them and make them larger, or whatever. And I remember taking mine to a Gateway. I worked at Gateway. I had mine with me all day. And I was, geek back then, but I'm sorry, who cares? But I would play that thing, a standalone game itself. It's pretty neat. That was a pretty neat system.
I remember when I got home, even my dad was excited to see it because I remember getting home, and I used to get home from Babbage's at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I probably was up for 3 or 4 hours after. I was playing Ready to Rumble, and he was even like, "Wow, this looks really good," sitting behind me in our main living room, like.
Ready to Rumble,
NFL 2K and
Power Stone,
Power Stone. What's funny? I remember that game. Like now, I like it. But at the time, if you remember, we had a demo unit months in advance of the system.
Right.
Remember how we used to just stand and play it while we were working?
Oh yeah.
So when the game came out, I was already kind of sick of it.
Yeah.
Because we had been playing it for several months. At the time, I liked it. Then when the game came out, that I didn't get it because it was, we had already played it so much in our demo unit in the store.
That was a Capcom game. I am amazed that there's not been a remake of that game. I mean,
if I remember that game, I was watching the video early today on YouTube. You could run around an arena, pick up everything. It was completely interactive.
Can you imagine what they could do with today's hardware, bro? Oh man,
I don't know a single fighting game like that today that I can think of. Everything.
It was incredible.
Yeah,
I don't. At its time, that game was way. I probably played that game more than the other game of the Dreamcast for like 3 months straight. I think. Me and my friend.
And I did not play Power Stone 2 at all. So that's one I'm excited to revisit.
Absolutely.
Just to kind of say as a disclaimer here and something coming up, not a disclaimer really, but something coming up. I've got a Dreamcast unit that's got HDMI modified on along with an SD card slot. I'm going to test out some stuff and hopefully we'll have something here for the channel soon on that. But Power Stone 2 is one I've been looking to kind of test out and play.
Absolutely.
Same as Ready to Rumble 2. For whatever reason, I didn't play that as much as I love Ready to Rumble 1. And that's Crazy Taxi. Love the first, Crazy Taxi 2. I don't know if I ever really played it.
I have to say this, though. I have to throw this out there. There are several emulators that will play Dreamcast ROMs, right? Mm-hmm. But in my opinion, I have not come across one that does the system justice entirely. I mean, there's always something that's not 100% right compared to the original hardware. And for that, I do regret not having a Dreamcast with all these games anymore. You know what I mean?
To me, the biggest thing you lose when you emulate, and I'm big into the emulation. Like I use Redream for Dreamcast, and I've done a Saturn emulator and a PS2 emulator, and the biggest thing that you lose is a controller. You don't have that same feel of the controller. Yeah. So,
and depending on
that's kind of the biggest thing I think you really lose when you start emulating on some of these systems. It just isn't the same experience.
Depending on the hardware as well. I mean, there may be some give and take with graphics as well, whether it be lag or sound cutting in and out. And I haven't seen one yet where it's 100% compatible with all the ROMs out there either. So I don't know. I think it's worth having the original hardware for that system alone. I'd rather have that over the 64, to be honest with you. Because I enjoyed the Dreamcast when I did the 64. So it's just my preference, I guess, but. Both great systems.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where it just, it depends what you're looking for. If you want to just play it for a minute, you may be okay with emulation. But, I've got stuff like I was saying previously. I've got, authentic controllers now and stuff I want to get back into it with and light guns. And, I've just been excited to kind of see what it's like to go back now and revisit some of that original hardware. So,
and I will also say this. We could almost say that, well, I could say this, but the Dreamcast to me, and as far as retro gaming goes, was probably the point where I could still play those games today and still have a ton of fun with them. I can't say the same for Sega Genesis. And I mean, because the Dreamcast graphics are still holding up pretty well over the years. I mean, they're not
Absolutely.
probably, but they still look pretty good
Mm-hmm.
on the hardware running it on. So to me, the Dreamcast is where I can go back and grab Power Stone and not be upset about the graphics. They still look really good.
You know, in addition to that, also, it's kind of the one system. You remember, you and I played a little bit. It's amazing. I think that you could play that game online with a dial-up modem.
Yeah, and that was another technological marvel that they pulled off somehow. We were playing Quake online. I think we were playing Quake.
I remember playing Quake online. Yeah. I remember playing, you and I playing NFL. It might have been 2K1.
That's right. Yep. We played baseball. We played baseball, a World Series baseball as well. So yeah, on a dial-up. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? And those graphics were not like stick figure cutout. Those were pushing some 3D graphics as well, I believe. So yeah, hands off to Sega. Hats off to Sega, man. They really they were ahead of the curve on a lot of
absolutely.
I think they're out of the hardware business for sure. You can probably safely say that.
You know, what'll be interesting to see here with this, the success of the Genesis Mini that comes out now in less than 2 weeks. If you've done any reading about that, you know, that depending how that does, if it does really well, you could someday see a Saturn Mini, a Dreamcast Mini, you know, depending how those systems do. You know, Sega, you might not, you're seeing SNK slowly come back, and, you know, there's even an Intellivision system coming out in about a year. So,
wow. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? You have to wonder who their audience is, though, you know, if it's really going to cater to, you know, the people of our age, or I don't see them really. I don't see teenagers buying these consoles, man. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
And here's one of the reasons why. Cell phones, for one, they can play better graphical games on the cell phone than, you know what I mean? So I just don't see the. For us, it's nostalgic. You know, it's just fun to go back and see we played as kids. But my son, I have a son, and my son is 14 years old. He's not playing those games. He's not trying to. He has no desire whatsoever to play a Sega Genesis. None whatsoever. Or a Sega Dreamcast. You know. Now I will say this: he's taken a very strange liking to the GameCube, though. I've got GameCube games loaded on my Wii U now, and he plays that quite a bit. The Nintendo titles, mind you, but he does play the GameCube games. So maybe you still think he might like them, but I don't see it happen. You know.
Yeah.
What about your kid? He's not gonna play those games either, right?
No, it could be some years before he's really into stuff like that.
So it really is a niche market. Would you agree with that? It's just gonna be like a small cutout.
Probably.
Of people
that are popular with the people it's popular with, but that'll be where it ends.
Yeah. The market is huge, though. I mean, the market is massively huge for retro gaming. There are dedicated retro gaming stores in Ohio. Who would have thought that? I mean, Salem, Ohio. You shop there. You use them a lot. What's the name of their company?
Stone Age Gamer.
What's Stone Age Gamer?
Stone Age Gamer.
Yeah. I can't wait to go to shop with them. I'm gonna make a special trip down there. I might take my friend down there and see what maybe Thursday and see what's going on down there. But yeah, who would have thought? And now you can find this stuff online, of course, but just to go into a physical store where that caters in retro gaming alone. In fact, GameStop was rumored to be going that direction as well with retro gaming. But again, how big is the market for that, and for how long? You know what I mean? So I don't know. GameStop they're probably done as we know it. They're probably putting the final nails in the coffin, I think. And another part of our I won't say childhood, but another part of our, you know, coming up store is gone. You know, weird. It would be weird to see them gone, you know?
No doubt.
So the Dreamcast, where's the rank? If you had to rank top 10, where would it place in your top 10? What does it make your top 10?
Oh, yeah, it would. I mean, I would say I wouldn't put it above the PS4 and Xbox One. Those have given pretty good experiences. I'd probably put it in top 5.
Top 5. So why not ahead of the PS4 and the Xbox One?
I mean, I just think what you've seen there with games like GTA 5, they're, you know, Spider-Man, you know, you've got games there that are just.
You know what? You're right. That's
just tough to match stuff like that.
If we had to cut them off, if the cutoff point was Xbox, actually, let's say Xbox One and PS4, you had to start below that. Where would it rank in your?
Well, then I might put it. You know, I'd probably put it right below the Xbox 360.
Okay. All right. I would say right below the PS2. I probably go PS2.
Yeah, thinking of that one, I forgot about that one. But yeah, that would. I mean, that would have to. You probably put one, maybe Xbox 362, original Xbox 3, just because of the number of games.
Think
and
about
maybe Dreamcast 4.
Yeah, think about this. All these consoles, retro consoles out there, right? Do you see another anniversary hoopla for the PS2 in it when it comes up 20 years?
I don't know, maybe. It just depends. That system, as many as it's sold, you know why I don't know if you'll see it for stuff like that? Because you can still so easily find that system. You know, the Sega Saturn and some of those, while you...
The Dreamcast as well. The Dreamcast.
Yeah, but what's going to happen with stuff like the Dreamcast and the Saturn, they sold so few, much like the Wii U. Down the road, you could see people clamoring for those more because there's not as many out there.
Yeah, I guess my point is, I'm sorry to cut you off, but the Dreamcast, I think it has a special spot in history, though. I think it does, because it was ahead of its time. I mean, it gave you the arcade graphics. Not the PS2 didn't give you arcade graphics, but the Dreamcast, their claim to fame was the arcade's going to be in your house. So, I just think the titles that it came out with as well just give it a special corner in the retro gaming for that period. I think you will see a lot of hoopla, 20th anniversary, and so on and so forth. But you won't see the same thing for the Xbox, original Xbox. I don't think so. You won't see PS2. The PS1, kind of, you got a little praise, you got a lot of hoopla for the mini and whatnot. But the Dreamcast, I think, to me, it was just like one of those, man, I just love that system.
Yeah.
You know, just love that system.
No doubt.
Yeah. Closing thoughts for you, brother.
Oh, hopefully, like I say, hopefully you see Sega continue to kind of make a little bit of a comeback here. I think you might see it because there's a lot of hype surrounding this Genesis Mini coming out. Then you had that emulator version called Blast 16. It's on the Raspberry Pi that was very popular, which is gorgeous.
Yeah.
So you might see them start to kind of make a little bit of a comeback. I mean, even, there's this Mega SD cartridge that came out. If you read about that, you can now emulate on original Genesis hardware. Even Genesis and Sega CD off the same cartridge now. So you're seeing kind of some popular stuff come out there. You might see them start to make a little bit of a comeback.
Right. Well, to me, the Dreamcast was definitely my first, my favorite console that I put my own cash on. That was that I remember the most.
If I remember correctly, I probably spent $450, $500 in pre-orders.
I can see that easily. Yeah. So yeah, I will always have a soft spot for Sega. They were always the underdog for some reason. They were always the underdog to Sony. Even though they had software rather, that was, I thought, just as good, if not better than what Sony put out. But we know what tanked Sega, and this is what it is. But I'm not going to get into that now. But EA Sports, whatever.
Yeah, no EA.
Well, that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the Sega Dreamcast anniversary episode. We got a lot more planned for the channel and the site in the coming weeks, so stay tuned. The name did change to Retro Pop with a focus on retro gaming now, and hope you guys like the new direction of the site that we're taking it. We're having a blast. I'm having a blast doing this. I don't know about you. I'm having a really good time putting this together. So with that being said, we are out, and we'll see you guys soon with some more reviews on retro gaming and a whole bunch of other stuff as well.
Sounds good. Take care.
Peace.
Bye-bye.